DMX.
I love Rudolph. What? Come on. And we are live. Welcome to NBA Live Before Lock. It is Wednesday, December 16th, 9 days until Christmas. But Christmas is upon us with NBA preseason games. We've got 4 of them tonight. I am Josh Engleman. I am joined by Adam Scherer, and we are here to break it all down over the next hour. So let's start it off like this. Adam, how's it going?
Pretty good. Another nice, 4-game slate, so you can dig a little bit deeper into games. And it should be fun. Last night, I think, went well, so hopefully can repeat it tonight.
We have a ton to talk about. We've got a show after us. We've got free content available. We've got promos and giveaways. We have a ton to do, and we've got 58 minutes now to do it. So let's not waste any time. But first, hit that like button because I'm going to ask for it multiple times throughout this entire day. Subscribe to the channel. That's the biggie. Trying to get to 50K. It's going to be a big one when we get there. And hit that notification bell because we're putting out a ton of content and you do not want to miss it. So like, subscribe, notification bell. You guys know the drill. Let us start. Cavs and Knicks. I better take a deep breath here. Here are all the guys that are not playing today. Michael Kidd-Gilchrist, Austin Rivers, Kevin Love, Cedi Osman, Kevin Porter, Colin Sexton, JaVale McGee, Larry Nance, and Matthew Dellavedova. Got a couple other guys that are potentially questionable. Dante Exum is doubtful. Charles Matthews is questionable. I think I hit everything there. Adam, did I miss any names that you were waiting for?
I think you got them.
I also don't think that you listened to a single one of the names that I just said, but
I heard Cedi.
That's neither here nor there.
I heard Cedi and Kevin Love.
Also doubtful, I believe, Frank Ntilikina and Nerlens Noel. I don't know if they've been officially ruled out. So let's just start here. What is your favorite thing in this game today?
I mean, the Cavs, I think, it's terrifying because you have the Cavs facing the Knicks, and I'm looking at it like it's my favorite game on the slate. So, what can go wrong when these two teams play? But you have all these guys out, specifically looking at the Cavs side where you've been getting big minutes for their main guys anyway. You still have really cheap price tags as well on DraftKings, looking specifically at Okoro, Garland, and then Damian Dotson, who is minimum salary and should play 30, or I assume is going to play like 30, 31 minutes again. I don't want to say should because they can do whatever they want, but I think those 3 are all cheap and getting big minutes. And then you can look to the front court as well, where, you have Andre Drummond. There's plenty of value on this slate. So raw points do start to come into play. And you saw Drummond play 14 minutes in the first game, I believe 23 minutes in the second game. Wouldn't be surprising to see a couple extra minutes tacked on there. And if he gets to 25, 26 minutes, I think that, he's going to be a good play.
Excellent. I guess one thing I want to touch on before we keep going, is there like a huge difference to you between having 4 games today and having 3 from yesterday? Does that extra game matter a ton to you?
Not really, no.
Okay. I didn't think that it would. Just didn't know if you had any like specific thoughts to, adding that additional game, if it changes the way you want to stack up any lineups or anything like that. We'll keep it going. So let's look at Cleveland and New York. We'll start off with, I guess, some of the high-end guys. So we've got Julius Randle, 6,600. We've got Andre Drummond at 7,500. They are the 2 most expensive guys in this game. Elfrid Payton at 63. There's not a lot else. I mean, those are the only 3 guys that are like relatively expensive. I'm assuming that you prefer Drummond, but we've got Randle with power forward and center eligibility, looking to play a ton of minutes. Is Julius Randle the best play in this game?
I think so. So I don't know about best play because it's, he's 6,600. Then you have the really cheap guys on Cleveland as well. But I think he is one of the best plays. He's one of the best plays on the slate. I think he's still affordable. He's playing huge minutes. Nothing really surprising there. And it's not like it's a bad matchup either. So I think Randle's great in any format.
Thanks for the free $5, Demetrius Johnson. He doesn't work here anymore. No, you can't have a link. Amazing. It's truly amazing. I mean, I don't even know how to continue here. But yeah, thanks for that $5. For another $5, I might give it to you. I could have a field day with this one, but I'm just going to let it go. Let's touch on some of the value plays.
I don't even know for sure what the question was, but I think I can guess.
You can guess. That is just a swing and a miss if I've ever seen one. Let's talk about value, because I think this game is just loaded with it. And it's from top to bottom. Randall, Barrett, Isaac Okoro, Dylan Windler, Damian Dotson, Mitchell Robinson, Garland. How do we sift through all this value? This seems like a game where we're going to have pretty high concentrations of minutes for certain guys on both sides, more so than we've seen certainly in yesterday's slate, and kind of more so than we're going to see in most of the games today.
Yeah, and I think so. Do we have an actual Cavs starting lineup? I know we have Thon McCurry starting, but have they named the rest of it?
I do see the Bulls starters for tonight: Kobe White, Zach LaVine, Patrick Williams, Lauri Markkanen, and Wendell Carter. That much I can tell you. I have not seen a Cavs lineup yet.
Okay, so I'm assuming that the lineup is going to be Garland, Okoro, Dotson, Thon McCurry, and Drummond. If that's the case, I think that you have obviously the value that
I got it here from 23 minutes ago. Garland, Dotson, Okoro, Thon, and Drummond.
Okay. Yeah, so the obvious value is going to be the three starters that are all like sub 5K. Okoro is 4,200, Dotson's 4K flat, and Garland is 4,800. So all of those guys look good. You have Dylan Windler coming off the bench, but he most likely is going to play like 24, 25 minutes. He's the flat minimum as well. So that's someone that I don't really think is necessary in cash games. Like I would lean toward Dotson just because he is getting the start and played north of 30 minutes last game. But there's no reason in tournaments you can't make a pivot to like Dylan Windler because, it's Damian Dotson versus Windler. And Windler, I assume, is going to be the lower owned coming off the bench. So, that's another value spot you can go to. You can certainly take a flyer on Thon McCurry as well. Don't really know how many minutes he plays. He played 6 last game. I don't know if this is like a spot start where he plays a total of 12 minutes or if they're really planning on running him like 20 or 22 minutes. So it's not something I'd go to in cash games, but you can look there in tournaments from a value standpoint as well.
Thanks for the other free $5, Demetrius. That was not the brightest move you've ever made, but neither was the first one. So appreciate it, man. I'm going to certainly go buy, I don't know, like chicken nuggets or something like that. Milkshake. I can enjoy myself. It's just amazing, man. Never saw this one coming at all, but we'll keep it moving, I guess. What do we make of sort of the lower tier, the guys that could make a move from, say, 14 minutes to 20, enough to turn you into a value play that we might not be paying close enough attention to? The Dean Wades of the world. Is Obi Toppin someone that we want to look at to get more minutes? Amari Spellman. I mean, we've got some thinness in the front court tonight, and there's a lot of minutes to go around unless these teams are just running everybody out for 30 plus, which apparently could be the case. I'm kind of looking for something down the line in this one. I feel like there's some value to be had that's not going to be played.
Yeah, I'll say, I mean, the thing with these two teams is that I do expect these starters for the most part to play big minutes. So you don't get quite as much of that secondary value as you would on some other teams. But Dylan Windler, as I mentioned, from Cleveland, I think is someone that fits that category. Less interested in Dean Wade. I think he probably, my guess for him is around 18 minutes. Whereas I'm expecting around 24, 25 for Dylan Windler. On the other side, you mentioned Obi Toppin. Yeah, he's the problem is he's 5,800, but there are minutes there. Potentially I have him in for 24. You have Mitchell Robinson in the starting lineup at 5K flat with Nerlens Noel out. I have him in for 24 minutes. If he plays well and doesn't foul, I think he could go north of that. I don't really feel confident projecting more than that, but certainly someone that, and this analysis will apply to the regular season as well. If he's playing well, he's having a monster game. He doesn't play well that often, but he does produce at a high rate. And if he gets the minutes, he'll be a really good value. So, you have that. You have Reggie Bullock drawing the start with Alec Burks out. He's 4K. You have to obviously just start making decisions on all of these value plays because there are enough like good players on this slate that you don't want to just be playing nothing but 4K guys across the board. So the way I'm approaching it is I'm prioritizing these Cavs that are cheap in cash because I feel confident that one, they're just a little bit better than guys like Reggie Bullock, and two, I think the minutes will be there for the guys I had mentioned. But then in tournaments, you can pivot, to these other guys like Bullock, like Windler, that, aren't quite as quote unquote safe, but do have a pretty similar range of outcomes.
Is this the most stackable game of the slate?
Yeah, I think so, because you're just getting, like, naturally, I think you end up kind of stacking this game because there's so much value coming from it. But then there's also guys to pay up for. We talked about Randall, we talked about Robinson. You also have RJ Barrett, who's played like 35 plus minutes last game. He's only 5,500 still. He's shooting really well, but he's also shooting a lot. So he looks like another guy that has a really high floor at the very least based on his minutes. Elfrid Payton, I can't go to in cash games, but in tournaments, I think he's another high upside target. You saw him play substantial minutes in the first game, and then in game 2 he played 17 minutes, didn't play in the second quarter or the fourth quarter. So I don't know. There's obviously uncertainty around his minutes, but that just drives down his ownership. In a 4-game slate, if you're telling me there's a chance that Elfrid Payton's going to play 27 minutes against the Cavs at 6,300, that certainly has a high ceiling. So not someone I feel the need to roster in cash, but certainly can go to in tournaments. There's just so many different ways to go in this game.
I would be remiss if I didn't send this one over to the folks that are playing on FanDuel tonight. What do you love about this game if you're playing on FanDuel?
Julius Randle really stands out because, again, you're expecting him to possibly play more minutes than anyone on the entire slate, except for probably RJ Barrett. So Randle really stands out. He, I think, is a top 3 expected scorer for me tonight. Barrett is in the top like 6 or 7. So both of those guys, if you want to take shots on Payton or Robinson, I can pretty much guarantee they're not going to be too popular on FanDuel.
Okay. Is there anything else you want to touch on from the Cleveland side or the Knicks side? I think that there's just a lot of guys here. Let's do this. Give me your top 3 plays for this game on DraftKings.
Okay.
FanDuel stuff to the side.
Well, one other thing I was going to mention with FanDuel is that from the Cavs side, Drummond, I think, looks really good because he is someone that can give you that monster score. He went for, I think, like 40 fantasy points in his 23 or 24 minutes last game. But all of the Cleveland guys that we talked about other than Drummond, I think are pretty close to useless on FanDuel because they just don't give you that same raw upside that Drummond does and that Randall does and that Barrett does, for example. Going back to the DraftKings side, though, from this game, I think my top 3 would be Randall, Barrett, and Okoro.
Okay. Randall, Barrett, and Okoro. Okay. That makes sense to me. You're good for this game?
Yep.
All right, let's keep it moving. We will head to the Bulls and the Oklahoma City Thunder. We've got, let's do this again. Devin Dotson, Adam Makoka, Tomas Satoransky, Garrett Temple, Denzel Valentine, Thad Young, Josh Hall, Darius Miller, Ty Jerome, Trevor Ariza, George Hill, and Mike Muscala all out for this game. Best of luck to you guys trying to figure out which team some of those guys are on, but it really doesn't matter because they are all not playing today. So let's try and focus a little bit on who is playing. I think the highest ceiling guy here is probably Zach LaVine, although SGA at 6,200 is a pretty nice price tag from a upside and value perspective. Who stands out to you in this one?
So this is another one where we got the change in Chicago's starting lineup, Patrick Williams in place of Otto Porter. I have Williams for 28 minutes. I have Porter for like 24. I think that, Porter had come out and said that he needs to play as much as possible, but I still think that they're going to keep it within reason with it being preseason and with Porter's injury history. I think it makes sense for Williams to, kind of be getting a little bit more run here. But you did see an uptick in minutes for Zach LaVine last game. You're seeing plenty of playing time for Kobe White. They're playing alongside each other, so there is some risk just in any particular game that the one you don't roster out of those two is the one that happens to take over and dominate the ball. But I think that the price points are still reasonable, especially for LaVine at 7,400. Like, while Kobe White will have his share of games that he just dominates, I think LaVine is still going to do so more than White. I think he's still the number one option here. And you have seen his playing time, increase last game. He's obviously one of the best scorers, and there's no shortage of value on the slate. So if I can get 26, 27 minutes out of Zach LaVine at 7,400, I think that looks really good. In tournaments, I don't mind taking a shot at Wendell Carter at 5,100, especially because you're probably going to see, again, we don't have ownership projections for preseason NBA, but my assumption is that you're going to see a fair amount of ownership going to a $5,000 Mitchell Robinson, which is fine. He's a good play, but Wendell Carter at 5,100, it's, his minutes haven't been in line with guys like Levine so far, but it's not like we have any certainty on how many minutes Mitchell Robinson's going to play either. So I think there's probably a big enough ownership gap between Robinson and Carter that Carter is a viable pivot in tournaments.
I didn't even for some reason when I looked at Wendell Carter earlier today, I didn't see 5,100. I saw 6,100. 5,100 is way too cheap. I love that dude. I really hope that he can be healthy. I know you were talking a little bit about Otto Porter and his lack of health lately. You would know that pretty well, former Wizard. How are you feeling then about some of the value here? This doesn't seem like a game that has a ton of really like efficiently priced guys. I'm not expecting huge minutes on any of these like 4K guys. Are you looking at someone like, I don't know, Chandler Hutchinson or Baisley, Arcidiacono? It seems pretty bleak at the bottom in comparison to the Cleveland and New York game where it's just value upon value upon value.
Yeah, this is a game that I'm looking to more for raw points, I think, than value. In the Cleveland game, you have these guys that are just really underpriced and that you can feel confident in their minutes. Whereas really both sides of this game, even though Chicago and Oklahoma City are missing some guys, you don't really have like those clear value plays stepping in that look really good. It's more so you have a bunch of guys that probably each soak up a little bit more playing time. They're not really high point per dollar players. So whereas I was getting a lot of value from Cleveland, I think here I'm looking more for raw point guys, whether that's, I like Zach LaVine. If you're not going LaVine, you can certainly go Kobe White. We talked about Carter. On the other side, you have Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who was sort of disappointing in Oklahoma City's first game. Like, he played really well. He gave us, I think, 25 DraftKings points in the first half, and then he didn't step on the floor again. So he didn't play as many minutes as we were hoping for, and we don't have any certainty that he does here either. But it is one game further into the preseason. My assumption in most spots is that guys will at least pick up an extra few minutes. And you're talking about the clear number one option on this team with really no one to come close. Gilgeous-Alexander, going back to last season and including the preseason, without any of, the Paul, Gallinari, Schroeder guy, without any of them on the floor, he has over a 30% usage rate. So worst case scenario here is you get not quite as many minutes as you want, but he is still only $6,200 and he's going to be out there producing regardless. So Gilgeous-Alexander is one of my favorite plays. But beyond that, it's kind of like, what do you trust here? Like, Baisley's not even the minimum salary. He's $4,900. If you're playing 150 lineups, maybe you can have some Baisley, but it doesn't come close to anything I'm prioritizing here. There's just enough guys where it wouldn't be shocking if like Frank Jackson or Isaiah Roby or someone plays more minutes than I'm expecting, but there's just no amount of certainty I can put beyond that. And this isn't a slate where we're starved for value or anything. So, I'm not playing enough lineups where I really am interested.
I love SGA here. I mean, LaVine, from just a raw points perspective, I give the lean to over Kobe White, but there's not a ton that I am super interested in here. So let's flip this over to the FanDuel side as we do. I think that this is mostly just going to be the guys at the top, the LaVines, the SGAs, Kobe White. I don't imagine you're going to anybody much further down than that.
Yeah, this is a game that I don't think really changes too much. Whereas, like for Cleveland, I said that it completely changed going to FanDuel. I like the raw scoring guys from this game on DraftKings, and that does translate. SGA, I think, is one of the, likely to be one of the highest scorers on the slate. I have him coming in like fourth. So that's certainly someone that looks good. LaVine I have in sixth or seventh. So those two guys stand out. Kobe White certainly has the ceiling to be able to get there. So you're looking for the raw points, and you do have, in particular, three guys in this game that I think give you that potential.
What you guys should probably do right now, while you're here, one, hit the like button. There's 1,200 of you in here. That'd be great for us. And two, head to awesemo.com/join and sign up. Use the promo code Caruso. You can get our NBA package for $1 through December 29th. Can't beat it. Slack, NBA regular season projections, regular season ownership, lineup builder. We'll have the boom bust tool. We'll have more new content coming. I'm excited to do, we have the expert survey coming back again this year in some form where our collective will answer some different questions about each slate. That's going to exist again. I love doing that. We don't have the projections for the preseason, but we will have all of your normal projections and ownership projections once the regular season kicks off next week. So use that promo code Caruso and get in for $1. You just have access all the way up until December 29th. It's perfect time to sign up. But that's not the only thing we're doing right now. We've got a bit of a giveaway going on. Head to our Twitter account, look for the pinned tweet. You're going to have to leave a review for a podcast feed. So if you will submit a 5-star review on our NBA DFS podcast channel, you'll have a chance to win a $400 Awesemo Plus NBA yearly pass. Yes, all you have to do is review it. Well, give us the 5 stars, give us the review, and all you got to do is follow Awesemo_com and at Awesemo NBA. I mean, you can follow Adam and I too. That would be helpful. But do those things, and someone will randomly win a $400 Awesemo NBA Plus yearly pass. You get it for the whole year. Everything we've got will go to you guys. Doesn't include Fantasy Cruncher, but everything else that shows up on the website as premium content, you would get it if you win. And all you have to do is leave that 5-star review on the podcast feed. And honestly, it's a 5-star podcast feed, so that should be a really easy review for you guys to leave. Any final thoughts on Bulls and Thunder?
No, I just happened to look at my college basketball team, and I think it's probably giving me a preview of how that Knicks and Cavs game stack is going to go. My college basketball game stack has a combined 46 points from the two teams at halftime.
Oof.
Yeah, seems like
is that guy playing?
Yeah, he has a rebound and like an assist, I think.
Man, you got him.
Yeah,
Let's transition this.
That news.
Absolutely. Let's transition over to Blazers and Nuggets. Not a ton of news here. Anthony Simons doubtful, RJ Hampton questionable. I haven't really seen anything else for this game from a news perspective. Has anything caught your eye that I could be missing here?
No.
Doesn't appear that there's anything really on the. Greg Whittington is probable if you were really nervous about that.
Yeah, Barton's back.
Yeah.
Which, probably doesn't have a massive impact in this particular game, but it's just another body out there.
Yeah. So let's just dive right in and talk about this game as a whole, because it doesn't appear that we've got a lot to worry about from a news perspective. Certainly a ton of different pay-up options, or at least mid-tier to pay-up options. Dame, Jokic, Michael Porter, Jamal Murray, CJ McCollum, even Robert Covington at 6K. All these guys have pretty solid outlooks. We're expecting, north of 20, probably somewhere in the 25-minute range for all these guys. Is this the spot where you're just spending a large majority of your salary and taking the value elsewhere?
Yeah, and I think it's an interesting spot because of that lack of news. So we're not anticipating there really being good value from this game. Like, you have Nurkic back, so that kind of killed Cantor. Giles still had a big game, but as presumably Nurkic gets more minutes, you would think that takes minutes away from Giles, so he becomes risky. Not someone that I'm looking at outside of tournaments, but I do think that the lack of news does make this an interesting game to target, because you're typically just going to see more ownership go to early games on the slate, which is fine, especially in cash, where you know exactly what you're getting when you plug those guys in. You don't want to miss it. But for example, Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum, these guys only played in the first half last game, played around 14 minutes after in game one playing like 22 and 21 minutes. We don't have anything that I know of from stats suggesting what they're doing tonight. They kind of did it backwards in the first two games. Like, you expected it to kind of be 14 minutes in game one, and then maybe they ramp up to like 20 minutes in game two, as opposed to going the other way. But one quote I do remember coming into the preseason from Lillard was that basically he said that it's not up to him how much he plays, but that the plan in the first two games was to limit their minutes, him and McCollum specifically. I don't know that necessarily means in game three they're playing, a bunch more minutes, but he did specifically mention in the first couple of games. So the fact that we don't have that news, and there's at least some chance that you're getting like 28 minutes from Damian Lillard tonight. Like, if we had news right now, if Terry Stotts came out right now and said we're playing Damian Lillard 28 minutes, he'd be one of the highest owned guys on the slate.
Yep.
He'll still get ownership because I think people are assuming he's going to play a decent amount, but it's naturally going to be lower because we don't have that information. So it's someone that I don't think is necessary in cash. Like, if you got there, it's fine, but you are taking on a little bit of a risk because we don't know what his minutes look like. But in tournaments, I have absolutely no issue going there, especially on FanDuel, but on DraftKings as well. I just think you're going to get a pretty nice ownership discount on the main pieces from Portland, because we really are just making guesses at how much they're going to play.
Is this the best game for FanDuel?
I think so. I mean, the next game you have Randall and you have Drummond. and you have Levine and Gilgeous-Alexander. But this game, like, you have Lillard, you have McCollum, you have Jokic, you have Murray, you have Porter. So yeah, I think it probably is.
It makes sense to me. I mean, it seems like a game where a lot of legitimate starting NBA level players are going to get more than a normal share of minutes. And at that point in time, that seems like the bet to make on a site where salary is fully irrelevant.
Yeah.
Unreal. Okay, so we touched a little bit on Dame. Let's go to the opposite side of that. The Dame of Denver. How do you feel about Jamal Murray? A little bit cheaper, 6,100, or would you rather spend a little bit more money on Nikola Jokic?
Yeah, so I mean, I have Jokic right now, and I don't have Murray in my lineup, but it's a product of just how the rest of my lineup looks. Like, I have Gilgeous-Alexander ahead of Murray at that price point. I have Julius Randle, different position but similar price point, ahead of Murray. But again, that's not to say I don't like Murray. You know, I think he still has a high ceiling, and it's someone that if you're playing multiple lineups in tournaments, you can get to pretty quickly. I think that he'll look good on FanDuel because you don't have any sort of salary concerns. But Jokic, you know, I think looks really good too. He played 23 minutes last game. Again, we don't have anything specific from Mike Malone, but my assumption is that at the very least you get 23 minutes from Jokic. My guess is you get like 25 or 26, and there's enough value that it's not difficult to pay for him. It's not like it's a bad matchup or anything like that. Everything looks good. So I'm happy to get to Jokic. And kind of the reason that in cash I do slightly prefer him ahead of Lillard is just that we saw Jokic play 23 minutes last game. We saw Lillard play 14. So without any sort of news, it's just easier to make the assumption that Jokic has a higher minutes floor than Lillard. But in tournaments, I think that the range of outcomes is pretty similar.
What do you see in this game in terms of value plays, guys that you can save some salary on? I don't really think there's a ton here outside of probably Harry Giles at 4,100. It seems like this is a much more spend up game.
Yeah, I'll just say pretty much next to nothing outside of if you wanted to take shots at Harry Giles. Certainly a risk to kind of disappear at pretty much any point, as far as not his production if he's out there, but as far as just not getting the minutes, depending on like how much Nurkic plays. But he's still 4,100. The ownership shouldn't be too high since there's plenty of value elsewhere, and because we don't really know what to expect in terms of minutes from anybody. So still has, you know, a tournament ceiling on DraftKings, but just know that, you know, the downside risk is definitely real.
Anybody else in this game that you're looking at as like a flyer type situation, guys that you think might find a minutes boost or a minutes bump that, you know, could just be out there to really help you out? Some
not really, because
guy?
The pricing is pretty rough here. Like, Robert Covington got minutes in each of the first two games, but it's still Robert Covington. He's 6K on DraftKings. That's just really hard to get to. Like, he'll be lower owned than Julius Randle for 600 more, but I don't think they're close enough that I want to, you know, make that move. So kind of the same thing with Melo. Like, he can get 24 minutes off the bench. He's 6,400. I don't know that really cuts it. Nurkic is 6,600, so you're not getting any sort of salary discount on him being limited last game. And then on the other side, we already talked about, obviously, Murray and Jokic. Porter's $6,800. Like, can Porter have a good game? Sure. Is he someone that you can throw a dart at on FanDuel specifically? Yeah. On DraftKings, it's really tough. Like, if I'm looking for whatever reason to get away from Julius Randle, for example, I'd rather go to Porter than Covington, just because I think that he's more likely to score 50 fantasy points somehow. But it's just really tough when you don't really have anything indicating that Porter's going to play more than 30 minutes. Like, if he got the 30, you'd be ecstatic, and he's really expensive.
Yeah, I mean, you would need every one of those minutes too. Like, if he plays 24 minutes, he could be fine at that salary. Right. But I mean, if you got the 30, I mean, anybody that if you could know that they were going to play 30 minutes is going to factor heavily in your lineups, pretty much no matter who you are. That 30 minutes would be incredible currency on a 4-game preseason slate.
Yeah, without question.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, sorry. Yeah. I was just saying, like, Denver just has so many bodies still that beyond those main guys, it's really tough. Like, I don't anticipate Millsap or Harris playing big minutes. This is Will Barton's first game back. You had Campazzo play like 24 minutes last game. I assume he drops into the teens here with Barton back. It's just not a whole lot that I see there outside of the main pieces that we talked about.
Welcome back, Will Barton, by the way. A huge forgotten man from the playoff run. Very necessary. Very nice. Especially if Gary Harris is going to still be awful.
So, forgotten as in he wasn't there and they needed him.
Yes, very much so. We've got another show coming up after this. It's not going to be NBA preseason. MMA strategy immediately after this. So coming up 29 minutes, Jason and Pete going to be breaking everything down for this Saturday's UFC card. Should be fun. Unrelated to this Saturday's UFC, Kayla Harrison was supposed to have a fight in a different organization. And the girl that she was supposed to fight could not make it to weigh, and she weighed like 30 pounds more than the allotted limit, which is just preposteropose.
Same personal trainers as James Harden?
Apparently. I mean, the fight was at 155. Her opponent couldn't get below 180.
I made a fitness bet with a couple of friends. That's how I anticipate it going in April when it's time to pay
off. Yeah, I tried to make 150. What'd you get to? 180.
Yeah. What'd you start at? 172.
Yeah. It's quarantine for you. So check out the MMA strategy show coming up after this. We've got some free content for today. Not super important for today, but if you want to see where Alex stands for the NFL Top Stacks tool, that is free right now. That'll be for this weekend. And then our UFC Pro Plays, where myself, Pete, Jason, the boss man, Alex Baker, Steve, we all put our rankings in together and come up with sort of a consensus picks. That is free today, so check it out as we go on to the final game of this slate, and then we'll get into a bunch of questions. But final game, Lakers and Suns. Chris Paul, LeBron James, Anthony Davis. This should be a fun one. You paying up for any of the Lakers studs?
Not on DraftKings. On FanDuel, it's fine. They said that they're playing in the first half. I'm taking that at face value. I'm assuming that's the case. Even if they played a little bit more, like on DraftKings, it's not going to matter. LeBron's 9,600, Davis is 9,400. The efficiencies, the efficiency plus the amount of lying about minutes that would have to happen for those guys to like beat Lillard and Jokic and all of them just makes me not interested on DraftKings. On FanDuel, it's more interesting just because 18 minutes of Anthony Davis can very easily beat 28 minutes of, name your Nick or Cav. So
most people.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So much more interesting there, but DraftKings, the pricing doesn't even really make it a consideration for me.
Okay. So I think that we probably want to be talking a little bit more, at least from a high end, from the Phoenix Suns guys. Devin Booker, DeAndre Ayton, Chris Paul. The floor is yours. Who stands out most to you out of the three studs?
Booker the most, because so Paul, I think you can pretty clearly just put third out of that group. Played 18 minutes in his first game back. They're still ramping up his minutes. I'm not expecting anything crazy there. I do expect big minutes for Booker and for DeAndre Ayton. Booker's 8,500 on DraftKings, Ayton only 6,900. So both of those guys are affordable. Booker in that same price range as Jokic, as Lillard. I think I would have it Jokic, Booker, Lillard, but again, there's not a whole lot separating those guys. It's more so just that Lillard's coming off of a 14-minute game, and so I'm a little less confident in my educated guess at his minutes tonight than I am in my educated guess at Jokic and Booker. So all three of those guys in the same price range. You have Ayton at 6,900. Drummond is like $600 more, but other than Drummond, there's not really much in that price range. Like you have Randall, you have Drummond. Outside of that, I think Ayton's like the guy in that price range. So I think I'd be getting to both of them.
So on the opposite side for the Suns, do you have any interest in some of the value options, whether that's Eton Moore, Javon Carter, Jalen Smith? I assume you're a Jalen Smith guy.
I actually didn't even know he went to Maryland until last slate.
Okay. Well, then never mind. Yeah, I assume you're a Jalen Smith guy now.
Yeah, exactly. I'm a Maryland fan that doesn't follow college sports at all. So.
Nor should you. Any interest in the value coming from Phoenix?
Not in cash. In tournaments, this is a spot where, like, it wouldn't be surprising if you look at the winner at the end of the night and it's just like, oh, they took a value play from the last game that wasn't quite as good as the value play on the Cavs because the guy on the Cavs sucked. So it's you still, like, Javon Carter killed a lot of people last slate, but he still played 25 minutes. He just averaged like 0.2 of a fantasy point per minute. He's not a great fantasy producer, but he does generally produce better than that. So in terms of like medium projection and floor and all that, I give the edge to the Cleveland guys that we talked about at 4K. But that's not to say that Javon Carter's not going to beat them like 40 to 45% of the time or something like that. So he's someone that, you can certainly use as a pivot in tournaments. Same goes for Jalen Smith. Jay Crowder is expected to play though. I haven't seen minutes on him. My guess, I gave him 18 minutes, which is what we saw from Chris Paul in his first game back, but that potentially does affect Smith. Sarge is still out though, so there are still some minutes there.
So value's kind of thin from the Phoenix side, or it's definitely easier to grab some of the studs. Is there any value on the Lakers side? We're obviously not ultra interested in LeBron James or Anthony Davis, but is this a spot where we can go to everyone's favorite cup of tea or whatever saying it would be now, Talen Horton-Tucker? Are we going to Montrezl Harrell? Kuzma? What do we do with the Lakers?
I think this is the least appealing team on the slate. Because every other team that we've kind of said, well, they just have a bunch of guys that I think are going to play pretty similar minutes. There's been guys at the top that you can go to. But on DraftKings, we don't like Davis. We don't like James. But Harrell's price is up to 6,700. Schroeder's at 7,100. Those are both pretty tough to stomach if you're getting, 17, 18 minutes of sharing the floor with Davis and LeBron. Horton-Tucker's been playing almost every minute possible, but now they're bringing guys back, and his salary's come up to 5,500. Kuzma is back to being like normal Kuzma now, where he's not
so bad.
Well, but he's not gonna. He's unlikely to get enough shots to make up for being bad. So yeah, it's just I don't know. I don't really. If I had to go like on DraftKings, you told me I have to play a Laker in my lineups, it would be like hoping for the best from Horton-Tucker or Harrell, but I would not at any point be looking at my lineup and being excited that they're there.
Yeah, it's a pretty bleak outlook for all things Lakers, unless you're playing on FanDuel, at which point then you can at least take a shot on something. LeBron, AD, Booker, Paul, Ayton. Is there anybody else you would be like fine with getting on FanDuel?
Let me pull that back up.
Anybody outside of the main five like ultra talented people on those teams?
I don't think so. I mean, like Harrell, I guess wouldn't be the end of the world. I don't know if he's one that you mentioned, but
he was not.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you can throw him in there, but it's not. Yeah, I'd throw Harrell in, but it's still not like it would be my favorite guy. But at least the salary doesn't matter.
Okay. Anything else you want to touch on from this Lakers game?
Booker and Ayton are pretty clearly the only pieces that I actually like from this game.
Okay. Let's sum it up now. Give me your top 2 pay-ups and your top 2 value plays for the slate.
Top 2 pay-ups, Jokic and Randall. Honorable mentions to like Booker, Gilgeous-Alexander, Drummond. Top values, still Randall, Gilgeous-Alexander. But if you're talking cheap guys, Isaac Okoro and like Dotson.
Okay.
Which is gross.
1,250 people, 250 likes. You guys are doing a fantastic job. This will be the final time that I ask, but we're going to have a ton of time to take questions here. And I think this is a really good slate to take questions. We have most of the information. We've got 2 games starting at 9, so I'm not expecting to get any sort of wild news in the next 20 minutes. So it's going to just have to be question time. So hit that like button one last time, subscribe to the channel one last time. Make sure you're checking out our pinned tweets and signing up with the promo code Caruso. Do all of those good things. And thank you to Jordan Klein behind the virtual glass for producing this show. It's always helpful. Make sure you're getting all of his hot takes in chat. They were straight fire last night. They burned down literally every lineup he had. So maybe we can get the same thing going again today. But Premium Slack, get your questions in. YouTube chat, get your questions in, so long as they're about people that work for this company. Let's see what we've got. Wow, this one should be easy. From Elroy Jenkins, Exum and Dame or Gary Trent and Levine. You probably don't want the Exum side because he's not playing.
Yeah,
or at least likely not playing. He is doubtful.
Typically better to roster 2 guys that are going to play.
Yeah, definitely don't need to take a 0 today. Bars wants to know if we like Horton again tonight.
Nope.
I wouldn't say he's a dislike. He's just like a meh.
I mean, I'd say he's a dislike in the context of the slate, as in I'm
that's fair.
not coming close to him in any sort of main lineup. I would say he's meh in context of the Lakers because I dislike most of their team more than I dislike him. And the reason just being that they're healthy, they're getting guys back. You have James and Davis playing in the first half. You have a couple of other bodies back that had been out in those prior games. So I'm not anticipating him playing as many minutes, and I'm not anticipating him having the same amount of usage that he's had in previous games.
Top 3 FanDuel point guard plays in order. Dame, Jamal Murray, Chris Paul.
I think it's Dame, Murray, and then one of White or Payton. I would lean toward White.
Ooh. Yeah, I guess Chris Paul's just not going to get enough time to offset Payton and White. That's fair. Dame and Jamal Murray, though, very clearly at the top. Booker and Tucker or Trent and Jokic?
Booker and Tucker. Who's Tucker?
Taylor Horton Tucker, I think.
Okay.
Taylor Horton Tucker. That is a really difficult name to say because it feels like some of his individual names should be different words.
Yeah. Okay. So Booker and Taylor Horton Tucker, or
sorry, I got you. Trent and Jokic. Sorry. I thought you were just like ruminating on it for a second. No. I didn't realize you were just looking for the rest of the question.
Yeah, I was looking for the rest of it. I don't like either one, but I guess the Booker side.
Yeah, I would just pick different players, honestly.
Well, I like Booker and I like Jokic, and I don't really like Horton Tucker, and I like Trent even less. So I guess it's the Horton Tucker
We're
side.
getting a lot of Trent questions. So do you just want to put that to bed now?
It all depends on what you think Portland's going to do. We don't have news on that. Like I'd said when we went through the game, my guess is that we get some sort of real minutes for the starters. That my guess is that you get like 26, 27 minutes from Dame and from McCollum, that Nurkic, gets more run than he did last game. If that's the case, then you're one, not getting quite as much run from Gary Trent, and two, it's not as productive because he's sharing the ball more with the stars. So if you agree with that, then you're knocking Trent back. If you think Dame and McCollum are playing 14 minutes again, then by all means play Gary Trent.
There we go. This is a good question. I didn't realize how thin it was. Favorite power forward on FanDuel after Julius Randle? It is pretty bleak. I think it might be Michael Porter.
I think it's Porter.
Okay. That's a pretty ugly power forward position today.
Yeah. I hadn't actually looked at the position. I knew when I ran my top lineup, it had Porter, and I kind of was just like, whatever, that's weird. I didn't realize it's because the position is just absolute garbage.
Yes, it is. Let's see if I can grab one from YouTube chat now. Montrezl Harrell or Kyle Kuzma? I
prefer Harrell. I don't like either one, but I prefer Harrell.
Agreed. Michael Porter Jr. or RJ Barrett?
Barrett. I mean, so the caveat there is if you're talking tournaments, I still prefer Barrett. Like if you've done something else in your lineup that is like contrarian, I think Barrett is one of the more underpriced guys on the slate. He's playing huge minutes. He shoots. He's not great, but he does enough. Where the minutes at his salary is really, really good. But Porter at least is like a reasonable guy to use from a ceiling standpoint. So assuming that you've made some other contrarian play, I do prefer Barrett, but if you haven't, then Porter is perfectly fine.
See what else we've got going on in premium Slack. Fading Garland in favor of Dotson in the guard spot. Tough to fit SGA and Levine with Garland in there.
I have Dotson and instead of Garland. It's not because I think Dotson's better than Garland, but yeah, it's the salary thing.
He's also better than Garland, but that's neither here nor there.
I'm sorry, what? You think Damian Dotson is better than Darius Garland?
Yes.
Okay, I disagree.
What? Oh, how are we quantifying this? Do you mean from like a fantasy perspective today, or just in like life?
Like, I mean, any context of like, if you're an NBA team, who would you rather have? If you're a fantasy player, who would you rather have? I think Garland wins all of these.
I would rather have Damian Dotson if I were an NBA team.
Yeah.
Fair enough. How many minutes do you see for LeBron?
17, 18. They said
16 was the first number.
Right.
I thought.
They said he's playing in the first half and not playing in the second half. That's what we have to go on. If they lied, they lied, but don't let anybody tell you that like you should have known they were lying.
Let's see. So many FanDuel questions. FanDuel small forwards, Okoro plus question mark.
I doubt that it's
Obi Toppin. Obi Toppin and Patrick Williams.
LeBron, Williams, Toppin, and then
not Melo.
And then like Okoro.
Yeah, that one's play on DraftKings tonight and every night until the preseason's over.
There's probably actually a pretty big edge on FanDuel just because you can do whatever you want and people are going to make mistakes.
Yeah, that's a good point. People are going to play that probably incorrectly. Well, you got a couple more days, I guess.
Yeah, I thought about it tonight, but I didn't want to deal with it. I didn't want to play two sites on the show.
Smart. Is 3 Cavs too many, or does that seem right with the value? Have a lot of lines with 2 value guys plus Drummond.
That's what I have. So, and by that I mean I'm playing one lineup. So in my optimal build, I have 3 Cavs, and it's 2 value Cavs plus Drummond. But if you ended up with 3 value Cavs, that's fine too. Like if you get Garland, Dotson, and Okoro, and then I don't know, Jokic, Booker, or something like that instead of Drummond, perfectly fine.
Yeah, there's just so much value on that game, and even not just on the Cleveland team in general, that it's really hard to avoid it all.
And I guess to clarify kind of quickly too, because I don't think I mentioned it when we went through.
I've got a note for you that's going to be important. Monty Williams says Jay Crowder will play tonight and he'll start at the 4.
Okay, I don't think that changes too much. Chris Paul started last game, played 18 minutes. I had Crowder in for 18 minutes. It just means Jalen Smith's coming off the bench. I don't think it changes Jalen Smith's playing time all that much. And even more so, I don't think it really changes the thought process behind Jalen Smith. It's not someone you should have been feeling confident in his minutes and playing in cash anyway. And the flip side of that is I don't feel confident in his minutes. And if you told me he played 24, I wouldn't be surprised at all. So if you were looking at him as like a dart throw in tournaments, nothing really changed with that information.
One other note, Mike Malone on Will Barton. He'll definitely play tonight.
Excellent. So what I was going to say about the Cavs value too, the reason that I think it's such strong value, it's not even that I think they're great DFS producers or anything. It's just like when we talk about preseason games, you feel a little bit better when you're talking about young players getting minutes. You feel a little bit better when you've seen the rotations already. You feel a little bit better when it's a team that hasn't played in 9 months. All of those things work for Cleveland. Like you're talking about, they've already been playing their starters heavy minutes for the most part. Now you have guys out, so you have a shorter team. You're talking about them playing or guessing that they're going to play their first round pick this year and 2 of their previous first round picks a bunch of minutes. Why wouldn't they? So it's kind of all of those things that is the reason why I think the floor is pretty high for the value there. Whereas on a lot of other teams, it's kind of been like, yeah, it could happen, but I'm not super confident in it.
Friend of the program, Chris Spags, has his official sneak pick in Slack. That would be Theo Maledon. Let me know. You want to take a poop on that one, or you like it?
He's one of the 80 guys on the Thunder that probably plays like 16 to 20 minutes.
There it is. Levine or Dame?
Levine if price matters. Probably Levine if price doesn't matter, but it becomes a lot closer.
Yeah. So basically, if price doesn't matter, FanDuel or DraftKings.
Exactly.
Yeah.
DraftKings, I prefer Levine for I think it's like a $600 or $1,200 discount. FanDuel, I feel a little better about Levine again because we've seen him play 27 minutes last game, but it's a lot closer.
Do you think LeBron outscores Pat Williams and Obi Toppin? Together?
No. Together, no. In terms of projection, I think it's really, really close. I have LeBron by a point.
Suns starters: Chris Paul, Devin Booker, Mikal Bridges, Jay Crowder, DeAndre Ayton.
All right, cool. Nothing surprising there.
No, not so much. Pour one out for Chris Clemens' Achilles. Not all that important for right now.
It does suck. That's a good 3 or 4 regular season slates that he would kill me one way or the other, either not playing when I roster him or scoring 40 when I don't.
Former Campbell Camel right up the road from me, and one of Ben Raz's guys. He's well into very obscure college basketball players making NBA appearances, so always got to shout him out for that. What else we need? Grain Grippa says we need to seriously take a look at Dennis Smith Jr. with Frank Ntilikina out.
I have him at 20 minutes. I actually think that's a decent call out because it's someone that at least should be mentioned as far as I don't know what his minutes are going to look like. I have him at 20. I have drawing a blank on his name. Quickly picking up some run. He played, I think, like 8 or 9 minutes last game. I have him at 16 or 17 here. I could definitely be wrong on that. And then you get like 24 from Dennis Smith Jr. But the one thing to point out, and I'm pulling it back up now to make sure I get it right, but Ntilikina's minutes last game, it's not like he was playing huge minutes. He played against the Pistons on the 13th. Ntilikina played 11 minutes and 40 seconds. Didn't even sub in until halfway through the second quarter and then picked up a few more minutes halfway through the fourth quarter. So it's not like you're taking like 25 minutes out of this lineup. In that game, Dennis Smith Jr. played 16 and a half minutes, quickly made his preseason debut and played 9 minutes. So again, I gave an extra 4 minutes to Dennis Smith Jr. On top of that, I don't think that you can really be confident that he's getting a lot more.
Tell you what, I didn't really enjoy trying to figure out who was going to play between Dennis Smith Jr., Elfrid Payton, and Frank Ntilikina last year. I just assumed that one of those guys would just end up not on the team this year, and yet here we are doing the same damn thing again. Go Knicks. We just got a ton of questions into Premium Slack, so I'm just going to hit you rapid fire now. Williams or Okoro?
Okoro is like $1,600 less expensive, so Okoro.
Levine or Garland?
What are we doing? Levine. But like Garland's a good value. Like
Jamal Murray or Barrett?
You're not just deciding between those two players. Barrett has the higher floor. He's going to play more minutes almost certainly. So Barrett, but I like Murray too.
Okay. Who plays more, Jokic or Booker?
I think I have him at like 26 and 27. Actually, no, I have Booker, I think, at like 29 or 30.
You clearly don't have someone projected for 27 minutes. What are you talking about?
No, man, I've stepped up my NBA game.
You started using odd numbers?
I use odd numbers now, yeah. But
end the show. Who needs this extra 7 minutes? Adam knows how to type odd numbers.
My guess is Booker.
All righty. Would you have Jokic and Porter in the same lineup on FanDuel?
No problem with it.
Agreed. How many minutes do you think Shai Gilgeous-Alexander plays? Anxious to hear what that second digit is.
25.
There's no chance it's 25. You either have 24 or 26, but you wanted to say 25 there.
I will screenshot it and send it to you.
Yeah, I'm sure you can't type over those numbers. You write that in pen, chisel that stuff in stone. Otto Porter off the bench. Any thoughts?
No, not really. I mean, it downgraded him so far as it takes, I think, any chance away of him like playing 30 minutes unexpectedly. So it makes him someone that I'm not really considering, but I wasn't really that interested in him anyway.
Any Dort love?
No.
What a fake screenshot. Doesn't look like an Excel sheet though. Booker, Dame, or Levine, DK, GPP.
They're three of my favorite plays. I think we already did that one. Levine, Booker, Dame.
Fair enough. See what else we've got going on here. What do you think about Darius Bazley at small forward on FanDuel? We haven't really mentioned him. It seems like too deep of a cut for me.
Yeah, same here. I mean, it's just like LeBron's in play there, so it's just a completely different thing.
All right. DK, GPP, McCurr, Okoro, or Bullock?
Okoro. I'll go Bullock second because he gets the Tom Thibodeau bump, and then McCurr.
5 minutes to go before we are locked. So make sure you're getting those lineups in. Geek Mike B in Premium Slack. I think this is an interesting one just because it's two like legitimately, high price guy at a one position spot. Jokic or Drummond?
I have both right now.
FanDuel.
I think Jokic. Double check what I have, Matt.
You got to pick one.
Yeah.
Unless, I don't know, this is FanDuel. One of these guys could be a point guard.
Right. I have Jokic by a few points.
Okay. All right, let's see what else we've got going in. Things have been coming in hot from Premium Slack. Premium Slack's having a good time. Thoughts on Mitchell Robinson with Noel out? I mean, he's generally great for every minute that he's on the floor.
Yeah, and the minutes range is probably somewhere between like fouling out in 12 minutes and playing 30. So I have
fouling out in 30.
Yeah, I mean, I have him in for, I think, for 24, 25 minutes. He grades out as one of the better centers. The only reason I don't have him, at least as of right now, and I don't think it'll change in the next 4 minutes, is that there's enough value that I'm able to get to Drummond and Jokic.
A report just came out that Giannis Antetokounmpo urged Bucks front office to trade for Bradley Beal. No kidding.
Yeah, that doesn't seem very surprising.
Yeah, I bet he did. You know who else did? Every other team that's good. That is not a report. That's not news. Everyone would like Bradley Beal on their team. Good God, guys. Man, I could be a newsbreaker.
Right? That's like one of those you just throw it out there on Twitter and say that you have like an inside scoop because nobody's going to say that you were wrong.
Yeah. How much would Giannis have to hate Bradley Beal for him to be like, no, we will not improve our team like this? It's just insanity.
I'm only signing this 5-year deal if you do not bring Bradley Beal.
Yes, that would be outlandish. Randall plus who at power forward on FanDuel? So many FanDuel questions.
Porter, we already did that one.
Well, we did an analog to that. Look, I read whatever on the teleprompter, man. I'm Ron Burgundy here. SGA, Levine, or Booker on FanDuel? Now I'm definitely just asking you questions we've already answered.
What was it? SGA, Levine, or Booker?
Yeah.
So FanDuel, I have it SGA, Booker, Levine. DraftKings, I have it SGA, Levine, Booker.
Alrighty. 7:28. You guys have 2 minutes. If you don't have your lineups in, get them in now. And thank you guys for getting north of 300 likes. I really do appreciate it. Make sure you're hitting that pin tweet, trying to get into our 5-star review. Try to win yourself an NBA yearly pass. Sign up with the promo code Caruso. It's only going to cost you $1. You get access to everything that we have through December 29th. Can't beat it. For premium Slack members, I know it got tweeted out before, but we're going to have a ton of office hours coming up. I know Colts is doing one. I believe that's on Friday. I think Alex is doing one on Monday. Adam's going to be doing one on Tuesday. I think I'm doing one on Wednesday. So we are loading up in our office hours. It's just all of us sit down in our premium Slack. We've got an office hours channel, and we'll take questions for a full hour. So good spot to be. And you can get into that Slack by using that promo code Caruso. Only going to cost you $1. Jamal Murray minutes.
I have him at 26.
Don't think this one's going to be close. Garland or Jay Crowder?
Garland.
Yeah. Righty. Don't know if we've got anything else. I think people are just jamming these takes in. We've got 50 seconds to lock, so I think that we can just wrap it up because we got to turn this one over. The MMA strategy show is coming up immediately after this. You're going to have to switch streams, but you should check it out. I think it's the final UFC card of the year. Let me double check that. Yeah, I'm almost positive that it is. Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, Jeff Neal up top. Should be a good one, fun to watch. Jose Aldo coming back, but you don't want to hear it from me. I mean, I'm good, but I'm not as good as Pete the Heat Rogers and Jason Floyd, who will take you guys through the entire card right now, because this show is over. Thank you guys for joining us. Like button on your way out the door. Good luck tonight. I assume you don't have anything else to add, Adam.
Nope. Sorry if I auto matched with you with anybody on head-to-heads on DraftKings. I didn't get them unregistered in time.
No need to apologize. Take that paper. We already took $10 from that random guy at the beginning of the show. It was great. Adios, everybody. Good luck. We're out.